Caleb Jack sat on the edge of the cold metal bench, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. The hum of the station was steady in the background, a constant reminder that he was far from everything he once knew. Once, not long ago, Caleb had been one of the most skilled pilots in the United Earth Fleet, a hero who had led dangerous missions to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Now, he was just a mechanic in a rundown outpost on the edge of the known universe, repairing old ships for scraps and barely getting by. The failure of his last mission still haunted him. It wasn't just the fact that the mission was a disaster. Caleb had failed to save his crew. They had trusted him, but in the end, Caleb was the one who led them into a trap, and many of them never made it back home. The guilt weighed on him every single day. That failure had cost him everything: his reputation, his career, and most painfully, his crew's lives. Now he was nothing. Just a man working on forgotten ships in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. But Caleb couldn't let go of his past. His thoughts often wandered back to those days, to the moment when everything fell apart. He had tried to move on, but it was impossible. The memories clung to him like a shadow, always following him, always reminding him of the price of his mistakes. Today, though, there was something different. Caleb had heard about a scrap ship, a piece of alien technology that had been abandoned and was up for sale. No one on the station cared much about it, but for Caleb it was a chance to fix something, to work on something bigger than the small broken ships he was used to. The ship was a mess. It had been sitting in a scrapyard for who knew how long, covered in rust and dirt, its hull battered from years of battles. The other mechanics had told Caleb to stay away from it. They said it was cursed, that no one who had ever tried to repair an alien ship had lived to tell the tale. But Caleb didn't care. What did he have to lose? He bought the ship. It wasn't much at first, just a hunk of metal full of wires and broken panels. But as Caleb got to work on it, something strange began to happen. The ship wasn't just a machine. It felt different. It felt alive in some way. As he worked, Caleb began to sense that there was more to this vessel than just metal and wires. It had history. It had secrets. And as the days passed, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that it was waiting for something, waiting for him. The first time it happened, Caleb thought he was imagining things. He was deep in the ship's belly, working on the damaged power core when he heard it, a low, almost whispering sound like a voice carried through the walls. It wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. Caleb froze. His hand stopped in midair, the tool hovering inches from the core. He looked around, half expecting to see someone behind him. But there was no one, just the quiet hum of the ship's systems and the dull thud of his heartbeat in his ears. "Is anyone there?" Caleb muttered half to himself as he lowered his tool. The voice came again, clearer this time, though still soft and distant. "You are not alone in this, human." Caleb's heart skipped a beat. His mind raced. That was impossible. He was alone in the ship. There was no one else. But then again, the ship itself was no ordinary vessel. It was ancient, far older than anything he had ever worked on. Could it be that the ship had some kind of AI? An alien intelligence? Caleb had heard stories of sentient ships in the past, but he had never believed they were real. And yet here he was, hearing a voice in the dark, talking to him. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. It had to be a malfunction. A glitch in the ship's systems, some strange side effect of all the years it had spent abandoned and forgotten. But deep down, Caleb knew it wasn't that simple. As the days went by, Caleb continued to work on the ship, but now he did so with a growing sense of unease. The voice came more often, always calm, always patient. It spoke to him in cryptic words, offering insights into the ship's design and history, as though it had been waiting for Caleb to awaken it. The more Caleb listened, the more he realized that this wasn't just a machine. This was something much more, a sentient being, living inside the ship, capable of thinking, feeling, and perhaps even remembering its past. One day, as Caleb worked on the ship's navigation system, the voice spoke again, but this time it was different. It was as though the ship itself was trying to make a connection with him, trying to understand who he was, what he wanted. "You are struggling," the voice said, its tone softer than usual, "but you do not have to be alone." Caleb blinked, surprised by the words. He wasn't sure if the ship was offering comfort or simply stating a fact, but something about it made him feel less isolated, less abandoned. The ship, This ancient alien vessel seemed to understand him in a way that no one else ever had. It didn't judge him for his past. It didn't care about his failure. It only wanted to help him move forward, to give him a purpose. "I don't know what to do anymore," Caleb admitted aloud, his voice barely a whisper. "I failed them. I failed my crew." The voice didn't respond immediately, but then it spoke again, slow and deliberate. "Failure is not the end, human. It is but a step on the path. You are still capable of greatness if you choose to rise." Caleb sat back on his heels, his hands trembling. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him. Hope. It was a strange feeling, one he had long buried beneath his guilt and shame. But now, with the ship's voice guiding him, he realized that maybe, just maybe, he could find his way back. Maybe he could redeem himself. Over the next few weeks, Caleb continued to work on the ship, and with each passing day, the bond between them grew stronger. He learned more about the ship, its history, and the alien civilization that had once created it. The ship, which called itself Vorotak, had been the pride of an ancient empire, a vessel of unimaginable power and knowledge. But something had happened to the empire, something that had caused the ship to be abandoned and left to rust in the void of space. Vorotak had been alone for centuries, its systems dormant, its crew gone. Now it seemed Caleb was the only one who could awaken it again, and in doing so, he might just awaken something in himself. One evening, as Caleb sat in the control room, examining the ship's star charts, the voice spoke again, this time with a sense of urgency. "They are coming," it said, its tone darker than before. "They know you have found me." Caleb's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure who they were, but the ship's warning was clear. Someone was after the ship, someone who wouldn't hesitate to do whatever it took to get it back. Caleb had no idea who they were or what they wanted, but one thing was certain. His quiet, solitary life was about to change forever. He wasn't just fixing a ship anymore. He was fixing something far more important, something that could change the fate of the galaxy itself. And with the ship Vorotak now speaking to him, Caleb had a new purpose. He wasn't just a disgraced pilot anymore. He was a man with a mission, and it was just beginning. Caleb stood before the control panel, his eyes scanning the strange alien symbols that danced across the screen. The ship, Vorotak, was beginning to come alive, its systems humming with power. The voice, the presence inside the ship that Caleb had first heard weeks ago, was no longer a faint whisper in the darkness. It was clearer now, more present, and undeniably real. For the first time in a long while, Caleb felt like he was on the edge of something incredible. The ship, an ancient piece of technology, was beginning to reveal its secrets, and Caleb was at the center of it all. But as he spent more time in the ship, something began to stir inside him. He wasn't just fixing an old vessel anymore. He was awakening something that might hold the key to everything, the answers to his failures, to his lost past, and maybe even to his future. "You're getting better at this," the voice said, its tone now more familiar, as though it had been waiting for him to catch up. It was calm and patient, but there was a strange warmth to it that Caleb couldn't quite explain. Caleb paused, unsure of what to say. "I've been trying," he admitted, a little awkwardly. "But I still don't understand. Who or what are you?" For a long moment, there was silence, and Caleb wondered if he had pushed too far. Then, the voice returned, more slowly this time, almost as if it were carefully choosing its words. "I am Vorotak," it said. "I was once the flagship of a great empire, a force that spanned countless worlds. I am an ancient intelligence, created to guide and protect the empire. But now, I am all that remains of them." Caleb sat back, absorbing the words. He had known that the ship was old, but this was something else entirely. An empire long lost, a force that spanned countless worlds. It sounded like something out of an old legend, not something that was real. "An empire?" Caleb whispered, almost to himself. "What happened to them?" "The same fate that awaits all who lose their way," Voro replied, its voice heavy with something Caleb couldn't place. "Sorrow, maybe. My creators were once great, but they became consumed by their own power. They turned on each other, and the empire crumbled. Now I am all that remains of them, and you are my only companion, Caleb felt a strange twinge in his chest. It wasn't sympathy, but something else, an understanding. He knew what it was like to lose everything. He had been there, standing in the ashes of his own failures. The difference was that Caleb's past was a mistake, while Voro's past seemed like a tragic fall from grace. But despite the heavy history that hung over them both, Caleb couldn't help but ask, "Why are you talking to me? I'm just a guy fixing a ship. I'm not a hero. I'm not even a good pilot anymore." "That is where you are wrong, Caleb Jax." Voro's voice was firm now, but still patient. "You are a pilot, yes. But more than that, you are someone who understands loss. You have faced failure and survived it. You are not here by accident." Caleb felt a cold shiver run down his spine. "You know my name?" "I know more than just your name," Voro replied, its tone almost reassuring. "I have access to information, Caleb. I have seen the patterns of the galaxy. I have watched you, not as a machine watches, but as a being who understands. You have been tested and you have failed, but failure does not define you. It is merely a part of your journey." Caleb leaned back in his seat, letting the words wash over him. He had heard similar things before, but this time it felt different. There was something about Voro that made Caleb feel like he could believe it, believe that he wasn't as lost as he thought. "I don't know," Caleb muttered. "I mean, I appreciate it, but I'm not the man you think I am. I've messed up. I don't even know if I'm ready to be a pilot again." "You are more than just a pilot," Voro's voice echoed in his mind. "You are the one who will awaken what lies dormant, and when the time comes, you will have the strength to rise." Caleb rubbed his eyes, feeling a sense of exhaustion creeping over him. It had been weeks since he had truly slept. Between working on the ship, trying to figure out its systems, and dealing with the strange presence in his mind, it was hard to keep track of time. But he had to keep going. He had to understand the ship and Voro if he was ever going to move forward. "I'll keep going," Caleb said finally, though his voice wavered a little. "But I still don't understand what this is all about. Why me? Why now?" Voro's tone softened. "Because you are the one I have chosen. You are the one who can navigate the darkness. The galaxy is on the brink of chaos. And you, Caleb, you are the key to understanding what lies ahead." Caleb blinked. "Chaos? What do you mean? Is it because of you? Is that why they're after you?" The voice paused, then replied in a tone that Caleb hadn't heard before, serious, almost warning. "It is not just because of me. It is because of what I carry. There are those who would stop at nothing to possess the knowledge within me, and they will come for you too." Caleb stood up, his pulse quickening. "Who are they?" "They are shadows of the past," Voro's voice murmured. "Ancient enemies, the remnants of the empire that once controlled everything. They will stop at nothing to reclaim the power they once held." Caleb didn't know what to say. His mind was racing with possibilities, but none of them seemed good. Whoever or whatever these enemies were, they were coming for him, coming for the ship, coming for Voro. "We have to get out of here," Caleb said urgently. "We need to leave the station before they find us." "Patience," Voro replied, calm as ever. "They do not know your location yet, but when they do, you must be ready." Caleb paced the control room, his heart pounding. He wasn't ready. He had no idea how to handle whatever was coming. But Voro was right. He had no choice but to face it. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the ship, about the knowledge that it carried, about whatever dark force was chasing them. "We'll need a plan," Caleb muttered, more to himself than to Voro. "Indeed," Voro responded. "I will assist you in any way I can. But first you must understand the full extent of what you are dealing with. The ship is not just a vessel. It is a gateway to something much larger, something that could alter the course of the galaxy." Caleb stopped pacing, a chill running through him. "A gateway to what?" Voro's voice deepened, as though it were revealing something long hidden. "To the truth about the Empire. to the knowledge that was lost, and to the power that remains within the stars. Caleb swallowed hard. He had no idea what he had gotten himself into, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just a ship. It wasn't just a broken, abandoned relic. It was something far greater, and he was the one who had stumbled upon it. The galaxy was on the brink of something, and Caleb Jax, disgraced pilot turned mechanic, was now at the center of it all. Whatever was coming next, he would have to face it. With the ship, with Voro, and with the knowledge that he had no choice but to rise. The quiet hum of the ship's engine was all Caleb could hear as he sat in the control room, staring at the map on the screen. He had been running through possible routes in his mind for hours, trying to figure out where to go. It had been days since Voro first warned him about the shadows, those ancient enemies who would stop at nothing to find them. Caleb had no idea who they were or what they wanted, but he knew one thing for sure. They were coming. And it wouldn't be long before they found him. The ship was almost ready to leave the station. Caleb had done his best to fix it, to get it working again. But there were still issues. The engine was old, and the alien systems weren't exactly easy to understand. But it was moving, and that was all that mattered right now. He had to get away before anyone found out what he was hiding. Caleb had contacted Rhea, the one person he trusted in this desolate corner of the galaxy. Rhea had once been a top intelligence officer, but now she ran a small black market network dealing in information and technology. She was no stranger to trouble, and she had helped Caleb out of tight spots before. But now, he needed her more than ever. His communicator buzzed. It was a message from Rhea. "Get to Epsilon 3. You'll be safe there for now. But be quick, they're already searching for you." Caleb's heart skipped a beat. He knew Epsilon the Third, an old neutral planet where outcasts, smugglers, and mercenaries often found refuge. It was a dangerous place, but right now, it was his only option. He grabbed his jacket and rushed to the control room where Voro's voice immediately filled the space. "Are you certain this is the best course of action?" Voro asked, its tone measured, yet tinged with concern. "We don't have much choice," Caleb replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Epsilon 3 will be our best bet for now. We need time to figure out what we're dealing with, and I need answers." "You have a plan," Voro said, "but it will not be enough to simply hide. You will need to confront them when the time comes." Caleb took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. Voro was right. Hiding would only be temporary. Sooner or later they would come for him. He wasn't just hiding anymore. He was in this fight for the long haul. And when the time came, he would have to face whatever was chasing them. "I know," Caleb said, his voice grim. "But first, we need to get to Epsilon 3. With the ship powered up, Caleb set a course for the distant planet. The ship's navigation system, guided by Voro, smoothly plotted their route, bypassing asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies. Caleb knew that the ship's advanced technology could easily outrun most pursuers, but he also knew that the shadows would not be easy to escape. As the ship broke free of the station's orbit and entered the quiet expanse of space, Caleb couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. The universe was vast, but it was also full of danger, and he had no idea who or what was hunting them. The only thing he could be sure of was that they would stop at nothing to find the ship. Hours passed as Caleb monitored the ship's systems and kept a steady eye on the stars outside. The journey to Epsilon the Third wasn't short, but he had a feeling that they would be safe for now. The shadows, whoever they were, hadn't caught up to them yet, and Caleb had learned to trust his instincts, but that didn't mean he was ready to let his guard down. As the ship sailed through space, Voro's voice came through again. "You are worried," Voro observed, "but you must remember, Caleb, that fear is not your enemy. Your true enemy is the darkness of the unknown." Caleb chuckled softly, though his heart wasn't in it. "That's easy for you to say," he replied. "You're an ancient ship, you've seen it all." "I have seen much," Voro agreed, "but it is not my knowledge that will guide you through the darkness. It is your heart, your will to survive." Caleb paused, reflecting on Voro's words. There was something comforting about the ship's voice, something that made him feel less alone in this vast, empty space. Maybe Voro was right. Maybe fear wasn't the enemy. Maybe it was his ability to face it, to keep going despite it, that would make all the difference. As the hours stretched on, Caleb finally saw the small, rocky planet appear on the view screen, Epsilon the 3. It looked as quiet and desolate as ever, but that was what made it perfect for hiding. He had been here before, many times, and he knew it well. But this time was different. This time he wasn't just running from the past. He was running toward something that could change everything. The ship landed on a small, unused dock on the edge of the planet's industrial zone. Caleb quickly powered down the systems and stood up from the control seat. "Welcome to Epsilon the 3rd, he said, though his voice lacked the usual confidence. The weight of the situation was heavy on his shoulders, but he couldn't afford to dwell on it. He had work to do. "Let's see what Rhea's got for us." As Caleb stepped off the ship and onto the station, he was greeted by the familiar sights and sounds of the underworld. Merchants haggling over rare artifacts, shady figures lurking in the shadows, and ships coming and going. But there was no time to enjoy the view. He had a meeting to attend and Rhea was waiting for him. Caleb made his way through the bustling marketplace and into a small bar in the corner of the station. Rhea was already there, sitting at a table, in the back, her sharp eyes watching Caleb as he approached. "You made it," she said, her voice low and serious. "I didn't think you'd show up so soon. I thought you'd be hiding longer." "I didn't have much of a choice," Caleb replied. He took a seat across from her, scanning the room. "I'm not here for small talk. I need information, Rhea. I need to know who's after me." Rhea leaned back, studying Caleb carefully. "You've stirred up something big, Caleb. Something old. Those shadows you've been warned about. They're not just a group of mercenaries. They're a cult. An ancient order that once served the empire your ship belonged to. They believe that if they can find you and your ship, they'll unlock powers that have been dormant for centuries." Caleb's stomach tightened. A cult? This was worse than he had imagined. What do they want with me? And why now? "They believe you're the key to reawakening their lost empire," Rhea explained. "And they're not going to stop until they have you and the ship. They'll do whatever it takes to get their hands on Vorotak." Caleb clenched his fists. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but he still didn't understand everything. "So what do I do now?" Rhea slid a small data pad across the table. "You need to get ahead of them. I've arranged for you to meet with a few contacts who can help. But you can't stay here for long. They'll be looking for you, Caleb. And when they find you, they won't just want the ship. They'll want you too." Caleb nodded grimly. The stakes were higher than ever. He wasn't just running anymore. He was being hunted. And if he didn't act fast, he might lose everything. "Thanks, Rhea," Caleb said, his voice steady now. "I won't forget this." Rhea gave him a knowing look. "You don't have to thank me. Just don't get yourself killed." As Caleb left the bar and returned to the ship, his thoughts raced. He had no choice now but to move forward. The shadows were closing in. And if he didn't stop them, they would destroy everything he had left. He wasn't just running anymore. He was preparing for war. Caleb's mind raced as he stared at the control screen of the ship. Epsilon the 3rd was behind them now, the planet shrinking into the distance as they traveled deeper into uncharted space. His pulse had quickened when Rhea gave him the data pad, her warning echoing in his mind. The cult will stop at nothing to reclaim Vorotak. He had no idea what he was up against, but one thing was certain. Whatever was coming, he had to face it. He glanced at the seat next to him, where the ship's AI, Voro, was still silent. Caleb had spent so much time talking to Voro over the past few weeks, but now, with the stakes higher than ever, he found himself feeling strangely alone. The voice of the ship, once comforting, now seemed distant, like an ancient guardian watching from afar. It was almost as if Voro knew something Caleb didn't, something he wasn't ready to hear. "Voro?" Caleb asked, his voice soft but steady. "Are you there?" A pause. Then the familiar voice filled the room, calm and wise. "I am here, Caleb, always." "Good, we need to talk." Caleb felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "I don't know what to do next. Rhea's information was useful, but I still don't understand why the cult is after me. I'm just a guy who bought a ship. I'm not some ancient leader. You are not just any man, Caleb Jax. Voro replied, its tone thoughtful. You are the one who has awakened me. You are the one who holds the key to what was once lost, and they will stop at nothing to control what you have found. Caleb's mind swirled with questions, but there was one thing he needed to understand first. The key to what? What's inside this ship that's so important? That is not something I can explain easily, Voro responded. But I will try. The ship you now command was once the heart of an empire, a vast, powerful civilization that spanned many worlds. Its creators sought power beyond imagination, and through it they uncovered knowledge that could reshape reality itself. Caleb's eyes narrowed. And the cult wants that power? Yes, Voro answered. They are the remnants of the Empire's final defense. When the Empire fell, the cult hid itself away, waiting for the time when they could reclaim what was lost. And now that time has come. So they believe I'm the key to bringing their empire back? Caleb asked, disbelief in his voice. Correct, Voro said. They believe that you, as the one who awakened me, have the potential to unlock the ancient powers hidden within me. You will either help them bring their empire back or destroy it for good. The weight of Voro's words sank into Caleb like a stone. He wasn't ready for this. He was just a disgraced pilot trying to put his life back together. He didn't ask for this responsibility. But now with the cult on his tail, he had no choice. He would have to face it head on. The ship's alarm suddenly blared, breaking Caleb from his thoughts. His eyes shot to the screen in front of him. A red warning light flashed, signaling a nearby fleet of ships. They were closing in fast. Voro, what's happening? Caleb asked, his heart racing. They have found us, Voro replied, a sense of urgency in its voice. The cult is here. Prepare yourself, Caleb. We are not yet strong enough to outrun them. Caleb's mind spun as he rushed to the controls. He had never been in a battle like this before. Not with stakes so high, not with his life and the fate of an entire galaxy hanging in the balance. But he couldn't turn back now. The shadows were already upon them. He grabbed the controls and began to steer the ship into a sharp turn, hoping to use the nearby asteroid field for cover. The cult's ships were fast, too fast, but Caleb had learned a lot from his time on the run. He knew how to fly in dangerous conditions. He had to use every skill he had. Hold on, Caleb muttered to himself. He engaged the ship's boosters, sending them hurtling toward the rocky field ahead. The cult ships followed, weapons charging. Caleb's hands flew over the controls as he dodged asteroids, weaving in and out of the floating rocks with expert precision. The ship's ancient systems, guided by Voro's knowledge, responded with eerie efficiency, reacting faster than Caleb could have hoped. But the cult was relentless. They fired on the ship, the sound of lasers blasting through space like thunder. Caleb swerved sharply, narrowly avoiding one blast. But the ship rocked violently as another hit its hull. We need to fight back, Caleb said, a determined edge in his voice. I will assist you, Voro responded, activating defensive systems. A hum of energy filled the ship as the shields flared to life, absorbing the blasts from the enemy. Caleb felt a surge of hope. The ship was fighting with him, not against him. Engage countermeasures, Caleb commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos. The ship's cannons fired, a series of rapid pulses that struck one of the cult ships, sending it spiraling into the asteroid field. Caleb's heart pounded in his chest as he watched the explosion from the corner of his eye. It was working. They were gaining ground, but Caleb knew this wouldn't last. The cult's ships were numerous and they would keep coming. He couldn't stay here forever. Voro, Caleb said, gritting his teeth. Is there a way to get us out of here? A faster route? I can guide you to a nearby jump point, Voro replied, its tone calm as ever. But we will need to reach it before they can intercept us. Do it, Caleb ordered. Take us there now. The ship's systems whined as Voro adjusted their course, charting a path through the asteroid field and toward a hidden jump point that Caleb hadn't even known existed. The cult ships were closing in again, but with every second that passed, they got further behind. As they neared the jump point, Caleb glanced over at the display. The cult ships were still firing, but it seemed they couldn't catch up in time. Almost there, Caleb said, his voice filled with tension. Prepare for jump, Voro instructed. Caleb held his breath as the ship reached the edge of the jump point. The cult was just moments away from firing another round of shots, and then with a final surge of energy the ship jumped. The stars outside blurred into streaks of light as they shot through space, leaving the cult's ships behind in the blackness. When the ship finally dropped out of jump space, Caleb exhaled sharply, feeling the tension leave his body. They had made it for now, Voro added, its voice quiet but firm. But they will not stop chasing us. Caleb nodded grimly. He knew this was only the beginning. The cult was still out there and they would come for him again. But they had made it this far and he wasn't ready to give up. He sat back in his seat, taking a deep breath. His heart was still racing, but he felt something new. He had faced danger and come out alive. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he might have a chance to fight back. "Where are we now?" Caleb asked, his voice calm. "We are at the edge of the Rithar Nebula," Voro replied. "A safe place for now, but the cult's reach extends far. You must decide what to do next, Caleb Jax." Caleb stared out at the swirling clouds of the nebula, his mind racing. He knew that whatever came next would be even harder than before. But he also knew that he couldn't run forever. He would have to face the cult head-on, and he would need allies if he was going to stand a chance. He turned to the control panel, determination setting into his chest. It's time to find out what they're really after. And this time I'm not running. Caleb Jax sat in the captain's seat of Vorotak, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. The Rithar Nebula, a dense cloud of gas and dust, swirled before him, its colorful tendrils painting the stars in shades of purple and blue. The ship had been in hiding for days, drifting through the quiet corners of the galaxy. But Caleb knew that the silence wouldn't last. The cult was out there somewhere, searching for them. They had already tried to destroy him once, and they would come again. His fingers drummed on the armrest, the sound a quiet echo in the control room. The voice of Voro had become a constant companion, guiding him through the unknown, offering cryptic advice and warnings. But now the ship's AI seemed more distant than ever. There were no answers to the questions that had been growing in Caleb's mind. What did the cult want with him? What was the secret locked inside Vorotak? Why was he the one who had awakened the ship? And what would happen when the cult finally caught up to them? He sighed and leaned forward, looking down at the controls. The ship's systems had been repaired, but Caleb knew they weren't invincible. He had no more time to hide. The cult was relentless. They would never stop hunting him, not until they had the ship and its power for themselves. "Voro," Caleb called out, his voice steady but edged with frustration. "I need answers. I need to know what's at stake here." A soft hum filled the air as Voro's voice echoed through the control room. "I have told you, Caleb. The cult believes that you are the key to unlocking what was lost. You are the one who awakened me, and they believe you can lead them back to the power of the ancient empire." "I don't care about the empire," Caleb snapped, his fingers clenching on the control panel. "I just want to live. I don't want to be the center of some ancient war. I didn't ask for this." There was a long silence, and Caleb thought that maybe Voro wasn't going to respond. But then the voice came again, softer this time, almost compassionate. "You did not ask for this, but your actions have already set things in motion. The cult will not rest until they have what they want. You must decide, Caleb. Will you fight to stop them, or will you let them take everything?" The weight of Voro's words sank into Caleb's chest. He had spent so much time running, so much time hiding from the past, but now it was clear. There was no escaping it. He couldn't outrun the cult forever. He would have to face them. He would have to confront the power they sought and decide what to do with it. "How do I stop them?" Caleb asked, his voice quieter now, full of resolve. "You must take the fight to them," Voro replied. "The cult believes they are the last remnants of the Empire. They are powerful, but they are not invincible. You have the advantage, Caleb. You are the one who can understand both the old and the new. The ship's knowledge is within you, but you must learn to control it." Caleb nodded, though the uncertainty still gnawed at him. He didn't know if he was ready to lead a fight like this. He wasn't a soldier or a commander. He was a pilot, a man who had failed once before and had barely survived. But he couldn't let the cult win. He couldn't let them bring back a power that had torn the galaxy apart. A soft ping interrupted his thoughts, a signal from an unknown source. Caleb glanced at the screen, surprised. It was a message from Rhea, the contact who had helped him earlier. He activated the message. "Caleb?" Rhea's voice crackled through the speaker. "I know you're out there, and I know you're about to make a choice. You can't do this alone. I've gathered a group of allies, pilots, mercenaries, and a few others who owe me favors. We'll fight with you, but you need to trust us. I'm sending coordinates for a meeting point. Get there. We don't have much time. The message cut off abruptly, leaving Caleb staring at the screen in silence. Allies. He had no idea who these people were or how they could help. But Rhea's words struck a chord. He couldn't fight this battle on his own. If he was going to stop the cult, he needed to find a way to bring others into the fight. Caleb set a course for the meeting point Rhea had provided. He didn't know what awaited him there, but one thing was clear. This was the turning point. No more hiding. No more running. The cult would never stop coming for the ship, and if Caleb didn't stop them now, they would bring destruction to everything he cared about. The journey to the coordinates took only a few hours, but the tension in the air seemed to stretch on forever. Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that the cult was closer than ever. He wasn't sure how they had tracked him down, but he had no doubt they would find him again, even in the farthest reaches of space. Finally, the ship arrived at the meeting point, a small, desolate moon orbiting a gas giant. There was a small docking bay on the surface, and Caleb guided Vorotak down with careful precision. As the ship settled onto the surface, Caleb's hands gripped the controls, heart pounding. This was it. The moment of truth. The hatch opened, and Caleb stepped out into the cold, barren landscape of the moon. A small group of people waited for him, all standing in the shadow of a weathered cargo ship. Rhea stood at the front, her eyes scanning the horizon as if she were expecting trouble. "Glad you made it," Rhea said as Caleb approached. She gave him a sharp nod before motioning to the others. "These are my contacts. They know how to fight, and they're ready to help." Caleb looked over the group. There were 6 of them, pilots, engineers, and mercenaries, all with hard eyes and serious expressions. They had clearly seen their fair share of battles. Caleb felt a sense of relief wash over him. These weren't just strangers. These were people who had made their own sacrifices, who knew what it meant to fight for something bigger than themselves. "Thanks for this," Caleb said, his voice steady. "I don't know what's coming, but I know we're going to need all the help we can get." Rhea stepped forward. "We've been keeping an eye on the cult's movements. They're not far behind, but we've got a chance. If we hit them hard, we might be able to cripple their operations before they can track us again." Caleb nodded. The time for hiding was over. "Let's get to work." For the next few hours, the group worked together, preparing for what was to come. Caleb and the pilots went over their strategies, using the ship's advanced systems to track the cult's movements and find their weaknesses. The engineers made sure that Vorotak was in top condition, ready to face whatever came next. As the sun set on the barren moon, Caleb looked out across the horizon. The cult was out there. They were coming. But this time, Caleb wasn't running. This time, he was ready to fight back. Rhea walked up to him, her face grim but determined. "You've got this, Caleb. We've got this." Caleb turned to face her, his heart filled with a new sense of purpose. The road ahead would be dangerous, but he wasn't alone anymore. He had allies, and together they would face whatever came next. "I won't let them take the ship," Caleb said, his voice steady and strong. "I won't let them win." As the group prepared to launch into space, Caleb felt a fire ignite inside him. This was more than just about survival. This was about stopping the cult, protecting the ship, and ensuring that the galaxy never fell under the control of those who would use its power for destruction. Voro's voice came through once more, calm as ever. "You are ready, Caleb Jax. The future lies ahead, and it is yours to shape." Caleb nodded, feeling the weight of the ship beneath him. The battle had just begun, but he was no longer the man who ran from his past. He was a pilot, a leader, and he would fight until the end.